take all of us through a very, very brief introduction to a technology that luckily will be a part of every one of your lives. Whether you work in the industry, you just go drive downtown, you're already seeing the things with spinning KFC buckets on the top. And I want to just take you through enough that you're an early adopter of the technology, which will change very, very fundamentally the way that we move through the world and the way that we think about how we can move through the world and build our cities in the future. But first, I kind of wanted to get into, before the technology itself, like why would these enterprises spend billions of dollars to teach a machine to do something that any 16-year-old can already do terribly? Like, why is that worth it? And obviously, there's the big numbers. There's the total addressable markets, right? There's the trillions of dollars of primary and secondary and tertiary sort of industries. You can even get down into like whoever makes traffic lights. At some point in the future, we're not going to need traffic lights. They're just a convenience for humans to organize their orientation around each other. We won't need those. And that doesn't even get into the cost of miles and shipped goods and insurance, for example. We won't need insurance anymore. But I want to get into a little bit of the opportunities instead of just getting into the purely capitalistic sort of a discussion that normally surrounds this. So first off, some more big scary numbers, right? Like there's over 1 billion cars in the world today. And those billion cars are just sitting unused, depreciating, decaying, honestly, about 95% of their lifespan. Any of you that drove here today, since only if you live on campus, yours is sitting somewhere right now just wasting space. And that space, even that, like think of the most dense urban cities around the world, many of them dedicate or waste like 20% of the usable real estate in that city just to being this sort of like temporary coffin for these decaying vehicles that are moving right now. And even when they're moving, about 60% of the time, it's one person in that car. Even these huge SUVs or the smart cars that only really sit two and not zero if you're my size. But even that, when it's utilized, it's incredibly underutilized. And so just think about the opportunities of how much more efficiently we can move the same amount of people so much better, save space, save time, save money. And the number that isn't up here that I really want to get into is saving lives. There's 1.3 million people that die in a traffic-related event worldwide every year. And we've just taken that into sort of this assumption as a society. We've come to just accept that. Like the size of this room, I guarantee somebody in here has unfortunately been touched by a life-changing traffic-related event, even in your short lives already. And we've just come to think that that's like an inevitable truth that we have to accept. And we really just don't. When I was a kid, the corner of the garage, or the corner of the basement that I slept in, was right underneath of the garage. And my dad was a 30-plus year veteran of the Utah Highway Patrol, and he had the unenviable task of being, kind of the lead accident investigator. He had to be out on every fatality or potential fatality. And even in the incredibly sparsely populated little corner of the desert that I grew up in, that door went up a lot. And I could hear it go up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and it would wake me up. And I would realize that if that garage door was going up, it meant somebody else's wasn't. Like hearing that patrol car go down my driveway meant somebody else wasn't hearing a car come into theirs. And again, that happened a lot, just even in that incredibly sparsely populated area. So you extrapolate that worldwide and I really think that that is the opportunity that should be focused on. This is the generation that will make it so that we talk about a car crash in a matter of years the way that we talk about plane crashes now. Like, oh, did you hear a car crash in Arkansas last week? Yeah, like 2 people were moderately inconvenienced. And like, we'll be talking about that, right? Like, we'll have to figure out what happened. It literally got hit by a meteorite, and it hit the part of the car that's supposed to detect that it got hit by a meteorite, right? And like, that's the only way that it's gonna crash. That's where we're going to get to easily within our lifespan. So now that we've gotten into a little bit about why we would do this thing, we'll get into the how. And so, there's multiple PhDs in every single part of the discipline here to get into, to study, to become an expert in. I don't have any of them, so I'm going to take you through a very, very superficial understanding here. So moving from right to left through the automotive stack, as we like to call it, the autonomous stack. We're going to start in hardware with sensors. We're going to take you through the middle stack there, which is perception, prediction, and motion planning, and come back out the other side on hardware again, gasping for air. All of this rides along a layer of sort of a hypermap that's a pretty divisive part of the industry, and we'll get into that at the end. So first, starting with the sensors, right? Just like you have to first see, hear, understand the world around you. You have to feel accelerations, you have to feel movements, you have to see the other actors in order to decide what to do with your hunk of metal as you're moving through time and space, right? And so you take these different pieces, these sensors, and you fuse them together, and that's how you have perception. You understand the actors that share the world around you. So different vehicles use different types of motion plans, or different types of sensors. Radar, LiDAR, camera, these are some pretty common ones. And so you'll see on the screen behind me, these are the early phases of, again, LiDAR not everybody uses, but camera and radar pretty much everybody does. They have different strengths and weaknesses. And together they allow you to build this incredibly accurate picture of the actors that are sharing the roadway in your immediate vicinity. And it's only when you understand the type of an actor that you have and how it's moving through time and space right now that you can possibly make an informed decision about what it might do next. And that's where you get into prediction. Understanding not only that that's a pedestrian, that's an articulated truck, and that's somebody wearing a shark costume riding a unicycle down the sidewalk. We have that one, it's cool. But you have to be able to really put those together and do your best guess about where that shark on the unicycle is going next. And that one we're just going to treat mostly like a pedestrian. Otherwise, it'll be like a bicyclist. But once you understand these classifications, you can kind of predict what it's going to do. They generally follow rules, right? A school bus, for example, can go 60 miles per hour. It really is unlikely that it can instantaneously go 60 miles per hour this way and then go 60 miles per hour at like a trajectory 90 degrees from where it previously was. Whereas humans can do that, a pedestrian can do that, but generally not at 60 miles per hour. So when you get those things put together, you can actually build a very, very accurate picture of what those actors that you're seeing will do next. And so here you'll watch the car in the lane to the left of our ego vehicle, our SDV. You can see it moving through time and space, and then at a certain point, its future path will actually fork. It starts to lean in its lane, the turn signal comes on, even though you can't really trust that, but it means that some probability of it coming into your lane will come true at some point in the future. And once you understand that as a self-driving vehicle, that's where you can start making your plan. That motion plan is where you take in all these other actors. You understand or have your best guess on where it's going to be moving through time and space, and then you adjust your own trajectory. So you know you're going to that Starbucks 8 miles from now, but in the next 8 seconds, you know that that next exit is coming up, so you have to stay in the right lane. But that other vehicle is coming into your lane at a distance that's a little bit too close for comfort. And so you take these sort of variables, comfort, smoothness, speed, the rules of the road, and you lay those all in together, and that lets you build this optimized, incredibly safe path through the world, and that's the motion plan. So here you see that we're planning on just maintaining 60 miles per hour in the future, and then you see the forked path. Now we need to make an adjustment. So we're going to need to slow in order to understand how far our relationship is to the vehicle in front of us. And once we have that distance, we can re-accelerate. And you'll do this as a vehicle, depending on the maker, the vehicle 20 to 30 times a second, in order to continuously understand the world as dynamic as it is around you. Now, we'll come back out the other side, back to hardware. This is where we have that plan, and we actually make a decision. You send it to the controls. So this is actuating the brake cylinder. This is initiating throttle. This is turning the car. This is what all of us think about as driving. That's really the last and honestly the simplest part of what we do. So here you'll see brake lights come on. There's obviously other elements of communication, of horns, of unlocking the car doors, locking the car doors. The self-driving vehicle will have all those choices, and they'll be a part of this overall plan when they're waiting for a person to get in, get out, do whatever they're going to be doing. Reactivate the throttle, resume your previous path, and you move on through your day. So hopefully now that you see how simple this is, your question from initially of like, why would we spend these billions of dollars? Why are we even creating this industry? Why shouldn't we save all those lives? Why shouldn't we let me fulfill my dream of making my dad's old profession obsolete? That's every son's dream, right? We won't need the highway patrol anymore, so I get to, now that he's retired, I get to tell him that I'm the one that wipes out his previous job. And instead, we get to move forward through life incredibly safely. All of this, though, rides on top of the map. This is the, probably other than the LiDAR, where Elon Musk is absolutely determined that no LiDAR is needed. You can do it with just camera and other sensors. The map is the other most divisive part. What the map does is it allows you to make these assumptions about the world around you. You already know where every driveway is. You already know where that tree is in the case of this video off to the right there, so you don't need to pay attention to it. If you don't need to pay attention to it, you don't need to waste the GPU cycles on understanding what that tree is and that it won't move, most likely. But that map is only as accurate as the day it's collected. Trees lose leaves, so it'll look different in the winter than it would in the summer, and that can have some effect on the accuracy around you, but it also makes it so that you don't have to waste those GPU cycles. And so it's sort of a choice. So now with that, hopefully your question changes to why am I still driving myself, rather than why would we take on this enterprise. So again, no PhDs are going to be awarded here, but at least you can ask better questions. You can understand a little bit more about the spinning KFC buckets. That's the LiDAR. Next time that you go down to Lawrenceville and you see any of the 5 different self-driving car companies that are there, this has become a real central gathering of great minds of this industry right in the city. And you guys get to have this front row seat to this revolution that has switched from kind of being science fiction to this feeling of inevitability. And it will happen in our life cycle. We get to talk about car crashes as this incredibly rare occurrence, this incredible opportunity, and I get to make sure that my kids never actually have to get a driver's license in a few years here, and I'll assume that they're always going to make it wherever I send them, every single time. So thank you all for your time. You've got some great speeches coming up, and I hope you know a little bit more about self-driving cars now.